The auction I shouldn't have attended. The air was thick with smoke and strange smells. Lights flickered in odd colors above the crowd. People, no, aliens of all shapes and sizes, pushed and shouted around the narrow auction platform. Jason had no idea how he ended up here. He was just a cargo pilot passing through the spaceport to refuel. A merchant had told him about a market with rare goods, and out of boredom he had followed. Now he stood near the back of a noisy underground auction hall trying to understand what was going on. He had seen cages, yes, actual cages being wheeled in, each holding frightened beings. Most of them were alien girls. Some looked too young. Others looked barely alive. Jason felt sick. "This is wrong," he whispered to himself. "Next item," the announcer shouted. "Lot number 73, a fresh beauty from the Nyari system." A spotlight turned on. And then, she walked out. No chains, no cage, just a young alien girl, barefoot, trembling, with her hands clutched together. Her skin shimmered, like moonlight, soft and pale. Her long silver hair fell over her face. She looked more confused than scared, like she didn't understand where she was. The crowd grew louder. Many shouted numbers in alien tongues. Others laughed. Jason didn't understand what was being said, but he could feel the hunger in their voices. The girl looked up. Her eyes scanned the crowd, huge, glowing lavender eyes. And for a brief second, her gaze landed on him. Jason's breath caught. Something in her eyes whispered, "Help me." He raised his hand slightly, just scratching the side of his head nervously. But the auctioneer pointed straight at him. "First-timer joins the bid. Human male, sold to the man in the gray jacket." Jason froze. "Wait, what? No, I didn't. Too late." The crowd clapped. Some looked amused. Others gave him cold glares. A guard shoved a tablet in his hand, and another pushed the girl gently toward him. She stood in front of him now, silent and shaking. "I didn't mean to," he tried to say. But she slowly reached out and took hold of his sleeve. Her grip was light but firm. Her eyes didn't blink. "I belong to you now," she whispered. Jason's heart dropped. "No, you don't. I didn't buy you. I just..." She fell to her knees. "Please don't hit me. I'll be good." The room was spinning. Jason looked around, hoping someone would say this was a joke. But the guards were already busy bringing out the next item. The auction moved on. Nobody cared. "Get up," he said gently, pulling her to her feet. "We're leaving." She followed without question. Back on his small ship, she sat quietly on the floor of the cargo hold, hands folded in her lap. Jason brought her water and a blanket. She bowed her head as he handed them to her. "What's your name?" he asked. She looked unsure. "You can name me Master." "I'm not your master," Jason said firmly. "You're free now." The girl blinked, slowly, like she didn't understand the word. "Free? Means I'm allowed to live?" Jason sat down across from her. "Free means you make your own choices. You don't belong to anyone." She smiled a little. "Then, I choose to stay with you." "No," Jason said, "you don't have to stay with me." "But I want to," she said softly, "because you didn't hurt me." Jason didn't know what to say. The girl looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her feet were bruised. Her clothes were thin and torn. And yet she sat so still, like a doll that might break if moved too fast. He stood up and walked to the control panel. Maybe he could take her to a shelter or find someone who knew how to help. This wasn't his responsibility. But then he heard her voice behind him. "Do I get to sleep inside? Or should I stay in the cargo box?" Jason turned. She wasn't joking. She was used to sleeping in cages. "No," he said quietly. "You can have my bed." Her eyes widened. "I'm allowed?" "Yes," he nodded. "Because you're not a thing, you're a person." She looked down. Her voice trembled. "No one has said that to me before." Jason looked at the small, trembling girl sitting on his ship. and a knot formed in his chest. He had come here to refuel and maybe grab some supplies, but he left with a soul who didn't know what it meant to be free, and she had already decided. She wasn't going to let him go. Jason didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, his mind replayed the auction, the trembling girl, the way she had looked at him like he was both her savior and her master. He didn't want either role. He just wanted to drop her off somewhere safe and get back to his quiet, boring life. But when he walked into the small room where he had told her to rest, he stopped in shock. She wasn't on the bed. She was curled up on the hard metal floor, right beside the doorway, her blanket barely covering her, her silver hair hiding her face. She didn't move when he entered, just whispered softly, "I stayed close, in case you needed me." Jason knelt beside her. "Why are you sleeping on the floor? I told you the bed is yours." "You gave it to me, yes," she said in a small voice, "but I thought you might test me like the others. If I sleep too long or take too much, I might get punished." Jason's chest tightened. "You don't need to pass any tests. I'm not going to punish you." She finally lifted her head. Her glowing violet eyes stared into his. "So I am a good slave?" "You're not a slave," he said slowly, choosing each word with care. "You're a person. I told you. You are free now." She tilted her head, confused. "Then why do you give me orders?" "I'm not giving you orders. I'm just trying to help." She looked away, ashamed. "I'm trying to understand, but my head, it hurts when I think too much. I was never taught how to choose." Jason sat beside her. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "They called me different things. Some just whistled at me. One master called me Toy. But I had a name once. My mother whispered it before they took her." He waited. "Layari," she said at last. "It means moonflower in my language." Jason smiled gently. "Layari, that's a beautiful name." She smiled too, just a little. "You're different. Most men don't ask." Jason helped her up and guided her to the bed. She sat on it this time, uncertain, as if it might vanish. He brought her real food, not ration cubes, but warm broth and soft bread. She ate slowly, carefully, like each bite might be her last. Later, when she lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling, she asked in a quiet voice, "Are you taking me back tomorrow?" He shook his head. "No. I'm going to find a safe place for you." "Will I see you again after that?" she asked. "I don't know," he answered truthfully. She nodded, looking away. "Then I will remember your voice. It's the only one that never shouted." Jason went back to the cockpit, but he couldn't focus. Layari was broken in ways he couldn't fix, but the way she trusted him so quickly scared him. What kind of life had she lived that basic kindness felt like love? The next morning, Jason found Layari cleaning the floor of his ship. She had no tools, just a piece of cloth and a bucket of water she must have pulled from the sink. Her knees were red. Her hands moved fast, as if rushing to finish before getting caught. He stopped her gently. "You don't have to do that." "But I want to be useful," she said, scared. "If I'm not useful, you might get tired of me." "I'm not going to throw you away," he said firmly. She dropped the cloth and looked at him, her eyes wet. "No one ever keeps me for more than 2 nights." Jason was speechless. He knew then that she wasn't just afraid. She had been trained to expect pain. Every act of kindness made her nervous. Every soft word made her think punishment was coming next. She didn't know how to relax. She didn't even know how to sit still without permission. He sat her down and poured them both a warm drink. Then, slowly and patiently, he began explaining freedom. "You can sleep when you're tired. You can eat when you're hungry. You can walk wherever you want in this ship. You can say no to me. I won't hurt you." She nodded slowly, trying to understand. But just an hour later, Jason returned to the room and found her kneeling again, waiting. "I know I'm slow," she whispered, "but I'll learn. Please don't leave me yet." Jason didn't answer right away. He just knelt beside her, placed a blanket over her shoulders, and stayed there in silence. He didn't know how to fix her broken trust in the world, but he could start by not breaking it more. Jason knew Layari was hiding something, not just her fear or confusion, but something deeper, something she hadn't told him yet. Even as she smiled softly and thanked him for every small kindness, her eyes held a weight no young girl should carry. She flinched when lights flickered. She froze when doors opened too fast. And though she always obeyed his words, Jason noticed, she never fully relaxed. On the third day, he noticed her wince when she reached for a tray. She hit it quickly, but Jason saw the sharp movement in her shoulder. Later, when she leaned against the wall to steady herself, he gently asked, "Layari, are you hurt?" She shook her head. "No, master, I'm fine." "Stop calling me that," he said kindly. "Just Jason, please." She hesitated, then whispered, "I'm sorry." "Jason." "Let me see your back," he said, concerned. Her face turned pale. She didn't move. "I just want to check if you're okay." She didn't speak. Instead, she slowly turned away and pulled her thin shirt up to her shoulders. Jason gasped. Etched into her skin, glowing faintly beneath the surface, was a circular mark. It looked like a burned-in pattern of lines and symbols, pulsing with soft blue light. Around the mark, her skin was bruised and sore. Jason reached out without thinking. The second his fingers touched the edge of the mark, Layari cried out and collapsed to her knees, shaking violently. "Layari!" he shouted, catching her before she hit the ground. She was breathing fast like in a panic attack. Her body trembled. "Please, don't touch the seal," she begged, eyes wide with terror. "It burns if you try to break it." Jason held her gently. "I didn't know. I'm sorry." "What is it?" She covered her face with both hands. "It's a tracker night and a punishment brand. They call it the obedience circle. If I disobey, it shocks me. If I try to run, they follow the signal." Jason's blood turned cold. "It's still active?" She nodded. "They always find me. Always." Jason gently pulled her shirt back down. "You shouldn't be in pain for something that wasn't your choice." Layari looked at him. "But if I remove it, I lose my value." "What?" "I was told that if the mark is gone, I'm worthless. No buyer will want a broken slave." Jason's hands tightened into fists. "You're not a thing to be sold." "I know," she whispered, "because you told me." Jason stood and paced the room, thinking fast. The mark was alien tech, possibly illegal, designed to control, to punish. He had seen devices like that during a pirate raid years ago. They were banned on most human colonies. But here, in this part of space, who cared? He returned to Layari. "I know someone who can help, a mechanic. She deals with illegal tech. We'll go there. She might know how to safely remove it." Layari's eyes filled with fear. "But if you break the seal, they'll know." "I'll handle it," Jason said. She clutched his hand suddenly. "If they come, don't let them take me. Please. I don't care if I die. But don't let them take me again." Jason didn't hesitate. "They won't." As the ship flew toward a nearby moon station where his old contact lived, Jason felt a strange mix of emotions. This girl, no, this young woman, had been through horrors he couldn't imagine. Yet she still trusted him, still smiled at him in the quiet moments, still offered to serve, even when he told her not to. He didn't know what their future looked like. He just knew that as long as she was on his ship, she would be protected. Later that night, as the stars passed by the window, Layari quietly walked into the cockpit. "You couldn't sleep either?" Jason asked. She sat down beside him and stared out at the stars. "I was afraid if I fell asleep, I'd wake up in another cage." "You're not in a cage," he said softly. "I know," she whispered. "But I don't know how to stop feeling like I am." Jason didn't have the answers, but he reached over and gently held her hand. "We'll fix it," he said. "We'll break that mark. And maybe we'll break the fear too." She nodded, not fully believing, but wanting to. And somewhere deep inside the pulsing brand on, Her back, a faint red light flickered. Just once. Someone had noticed the signal, and they were already on their way. Jason didn't know it yet, but the moment he touched the edge of Liari's glowing mark, a silent signal had been sent across the stars. Somewhere deep in space, aboard a dark vessel without a name, a blinking red light appeared. A tall, armor-clad alien tapped the console. His eyes narrowed. "The girl's alive," he growled, "and someone is trying to free her." Orders were barked. Engines roared to life. The hunt had begun, but on Jason's small ship everything still felt quiet. Calm. He had set course for Station Varela 6, a shady outpost orbiting a dead moon. That's where Tessa worked, his old mechanic friend who specialized in illegal tech removals. If anyone could break the seal on Liari's back without killing her, it was Tessa. Liari sat in the co-pilot's seat, wrapped in a blanket, watching stars slide by through the window. She seemed calmer now. But Jason noticed how she jumped every time the ship beeped or changed direction. Her fear lived under her skin, like a shadow she couldn't shake. "You okay?" he asked gently. She nodded. "I'm trying to be." They shared silence for a while. Then Liari asked, "Do you think it will hurt when she removes the mark?" Jason sighed. "It might, but we'll go slow, and I'll be there the whole time." She smiled faintly. "You keep saying that." "Saying what?" "That you'll be there. No one's ever said that to me before, not even my real family." Jason's heart ached. He didn't know what was worse, the pain she had lived through or how normal it felt to her now. Just as the ship neared the edge of Varela's orbit, an alarm blared. Jason jumped to the controls. "We've got incoming." Liari's face paled. "They found me." Jason checked the radar. A sleek black ship was heading straight toward them, fast and silent. It didn't answer hails. No ID. No signal. That was enough to tell him it wasn't friendly. "Hold on," he said. The enemy ship fired a warning shot, streaking just past their hull. Jason spun the controls hard, diving toward the moon's rocky side. Liari clung to the seat, eyes wide, with terror. "They won't stop," she whispered. "They'll chase us until I'm in chains again." "Not if I can help it," Jason growled, pulling the ship into a tight turn through a canyon of floating ice and debris. His old freighter wasn't built for combat, but he knew how to fly it like it was. The enemy ship stayed close. Its weapons lit up again. Jason cut power suddenly, letting the ship drift behind a large asteroid. The enemy vessel zipped past, expecting him to keep fleeing. Jason hit the boosters and slipped into a shadowed ridge. For a moment, everything was silent. "They lost us," Liari whispered. Jason didn't relax. Not for long. Just then, the screen flashed again, 2 more ships now entering the area. They brought backup. Liari's breath hitched. "It's him, the warlord. He's coming." Jason looked at her. "The one who marked you?" She nodded. "He called me his favorite, said I belong to him forever. He won't stop until I'm returned." Jason's jaw clenched. "He'll have to go through me first." She touched his arm. "You can't win against him. He's rich, powerful, ruthless." Jason turned to her. "I don't care who he is. You're not property. Not to him, not to anyone." The radar beeped again. The 3 ships were spreading, out, searching. Jason had one last trick. He opened the back hatch and dumped half the ship's cargo into space. Old crates, scrap metal, and empty fuel tanks scattered behind them like breadcrumbs. Then he fired off a decoy pod, made to look like an escape shuttle. The enemy ships chased the pod instantly. "That'll buy us 3 minutes," Jason said, pushing the ship to full speed toward the station. Varela 6 came into view, dark, rusty, floating like a forgotten tomb. Jason landed hard on the deck and opened the ramp. "Tessa!" he shouted as soon as they stepped out. From behind a pile of broken bots, a woman in a grease-stained jacket appeared. "You better have a good reason for showing up without calling." "I need your help," Jason cut her off. "She has a control mark, a bad one." Tessa looked at Layari, then at the faint glow through her shirt. "Oh no," she muttered. "That's Warlord tech. Ripping it out could kill her." Jason stepped forward. "Can you do it?" Tessa sighed. "I can try. But you both better be ready. If it fails, you'll have more than a scar to deal with." Layari stepped beside Jason, her voice trembling but firm. "I'm ready. I'd rather die free than live in chains." Tessa stared at her for a long second, then nodded. "All right, come with me." Jason followed them into the workshop, not knowing what waited next. But somewhere out in space, the Warlord's eyes were locked on Varela, and he was smiling. Tessa's workshop smelled like smoke, oil, and burnt circuits. The lights flickered overhead as Layari lay on the old medical table, her back exposed. The glowing mark still pulsed faintly under her skin. Jason stood by her side, holding her hand while Tessa prepared the tools, sharp, glowing instruments and wires Jason couldn't even name. Layari's eyes stayed on Jason. She didn't speak, but her grip on his hand tightened with every beep of the machine. Tessa placed a small, cold disc over the mark. The pulsing light dimmed, but Layari shivered violently. "She's still linked," Tessa muttered. "They're tracking her in real time. I have to cut the neural thread." Jason's heart raced. "Will it hurt her?" "It might stop her heart," Tessa replied. "But if I don't do it now, they'll be here before we finish." Jason looked down at Layari. "Do you want me to stop this?" Layari shook her head. "No, I'm tired of running." Tessa started. The machine buzzed. A high-pitched sound filled the room. Layari gritted her teeth but didn't cry out. Jason didn't let go of her hand. The mark flickered, then flashed red. Suddenly, Layari gasped. Her body arched upward, her eyes rolled back. Jason panicked. "Tessa, she's fine!" Tessa shouted, fingers flying over controls. "The mark is fighting back. It's wired to her spine." Layari's breath came in sharp bursts. She trembled from head to toe. Jason leaned close. "You're doing great. Just hold on. I'm right here." And then silence. The light from the mark faded. Tessa stepped back slowly. "It's done." Jason looked at the mark. It was still there, but it was dark. No glow, no pulsing. Just a scar now. Layari opened her eyes. "It's quiet." Jason helped her sit up. "How do you feel?" She looked down at her hands. "Lighter, like something heavy is gone." Tessa nodded. "The signal's dead. You're free." Layari blinked quickly. Her lips quivered. She didn't smile. Instead, she started crying, silent, shaking tears that fell down her cheeks. Jason held her, gently as she buried her face in his chest. "They can't call me back anymore," she whispered. "I'm not his anymore." Jason didn't speak. He just let her cry. Later, when she had calmed, they sat together on a bench just outside the workshop. The stars above Varela 6 twinkled like distant dreams. "I think you deserve to know something," Layari said suddenly, her voice low. Jason turned to her. "You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to." She looked down at her hands. "But I want you to know the truth, about who I really am." He waited. "I wasn't born in chains," she said softly. "I was born in a palace. My mother was the consort of a high-born noble in the outer systems. I was their daughter, hidden, forbidden, a secret child." Jason's eyes widened. "You're royalty?" She nodded slowly. "When I turned 10, my mother tried to escape, with me. She said the court would use me, that I'd be sold or worse, but we didn't get far. They caught her and killed her." Jason stayed quiet. "They spared me," Layari continued, "but only because the warlord saw something in me. He said I had the right blood. He took me in, but not as a daughter, not as a person. Just something to own. Something beautiful, to keep." Jason's hands clenched. "That monster." "He made me a part of his collection," she said, her voice flat. "I was taught how to walk, how to speak, how to smile on command. And later, how to please." Jason looked away, fighting the anger burning in his chest. I escaped during a riot, Layari said. I stole a uniform and slipped into the crowd. But I always knew. He'd keep looking. Jason turned back to her. You're not that girl anymore, Layari. You're not someone's property. Not a toy. Not a secret. She looked into his eyes. Then what am I? He reached out and touched her hand. You're Layari. Just Layari, and that's enough. She smiled. A real one this time. Small, but full of light. For a moment, they sat in silence. But then a soft beep came from Jason's wrist device. He checked it. His blood ran cold. Tessa, he called out. Is your scanner still on? She rushed over from the door. Why? Jason showed her the signal. 3 ships coming fast. Tessa cursed. They must have tracked the old signal before I killed it. Jason stood. We need to leave. Now. Layari stood beside him. He's coming, isn't he? Jason nodded. Yeah, but this time we're not running. Layari looked up at the stars, her eyes no longer afraid. Then let him come. The warlord's ships appeared like shadows across the stars, black, fast, and deadly. 3 of them circled Varela 6 like vultures. Jason's small freighter didn't stand a chance in a fight, and deep down he knew it. But he also knew one thing more clearly than ever before. He wasn't giving Layari back. Inside the ship, red lights flashed as Jason prepared for takeoff. His heart pounded, but his hands were steady. Layari stood behind him, quiet but strong. There was no fear in her eyes this time, just calm determination. I can't let them take you, he said without turning. I won't let them take me, she replied. Even if it means I die here. Jason spun in his seat. No, you're not dying. Not today. Layari gave a small smile, then placed a soft hand on his shoulder. Then let's make sure we both survive. Outside, Tessa rushed to the ship's ramp holding a small device. Here, she said. Signal scrambler. Should keep them blind for a few minutes. Jason took it with a nod. Thank you. Tessa gave Layari a look. You're lucky to have someone who'd fight this hard. Layari replied softly. I didn't think anyone ever would. Jason powered up the engines. As the ship lifted off the rusty landing pad, one of the warlord's ships turned sharply and began to close in. A warning shot streaked past their hull. They're not here to warn anymore, Jason muttered. They're here to take. The scrambler buzzed in his hand. He pressed the button. The radar on their screen shimmered, and just for a moment, all enemy signals vanished. That's our chance, he said. Hold on! He pushed the throttle. The freighter roared into space, slicing through the moon's orbit at full speed. But within seconds, the warlord's ships reappeared on the screen, 3 red dots moving fast. They've broken through the scrambler, Layari said, gripping the chair. They're faster. We don't have to be faster, Jason said. Just smarter. He dipped the ship into a nearby debris field, weaving between broken satellites and ancient cargo wreckage. Behind them, 2 of the warlord's ships followed, blasting metal apart as they chased. The 3rd ship, the biggest, held back watching. Jason swerved hard, using the debris as cover. I'm leading them toward the gravity well, he said. They hit that and they won't stop falling. But what about us, Layari asked. Jason smiled. I know this field. We'll escape through the narrow gap on the far end. Dove, making the freighter slip under a twisted metal plate just as one of the enemy ships fired. The shot missed, striking the old wreck instead. Jason hit the boosters. The gravity well pulled the nearest enemy ship sideways. It vanished into the black hole below. 1 down, Jason said. 2 to go. But the 2nd ship didn't take the bait. It broke off and began to rise, circling back toward the far side. They're trying to trap us, Jason growled. Smart. Suddenly, the comm system crackled. A voice deep and cold filled the cabin. Return my property. You are outnumbered, outgunned, and out of time. Layari froze. Her face turned pale. That's him. Jason leaned forward. She's not your property. You think kindness means you own her more than I did, the voice said. You'll learn. Love is just another kind of chain. Jason cut the signal. He talks too much. Liari looked at him unsure. What if he's right? He's not, Jason said. You're free. You chose to stay. That's not a chain, that's courage. The second ship began to fire. Sparks flew across the freighter's control panel. We're hit, Jason shouted. Shields are down. The larger warlord ship began to move in. It was massive, twice the size of Jason's. Its weapons gleamed. Jason stood from the chair. I need you to fly. Liari blinked. Me? You've seen me do it. I need to repair the back panel before we lose power completely. She hesitated, then moved to the pilot's seat. Her fingers trembled, but they found the controls. Jason ran back, opened the engine hatch, and began working fast. Sparks jumped, the wires were overheating. He cursed under his breath, cutting and twisting as fast as he could. Liari, aim for the storm cloud, he yelled. It'll blind their sensors. I see it, she shouted back. She guided the ship toward a swirling nebula nearby, red and gold light flashing like fire. The warlord's ship followed, firing one last time. The blast tore across the side, but the freighter made it inside. Inside the nebula, everything turned silent. Jason returned to the cockpit, his face covered in sweat and soot. You flew us out. Liari was breathing hard. I didn't crash us, is that a win? Jason laughed. It's a big win. They looked at each other. They were alive, bruised, shaken, but alive. Liari leaned against his shoulder. Thank you for fighting. Jason gently placed a hand on her hair. You're worth every fight. Somewhere outside the cloud, the warlord's ship hovered, searching, but failing to see through the storm. And inside the silence of the nebula, a once-enslaved girl and a stubborn human finally found something neither expected. Hope. The swirling nebula outside wrapped Jason's ship in a golden haze. Lights blinked softly inside the control room. The hum of the engines had quieted, and everything now felt still. Safe. After all the running, after the battle, after nearly losing everything, there was finally silence. Jason sat in the co-pilot seat staring at the empty radar. No more red dots. No warning alarms. Just peace. Liari sat beside him, wrapped in a soft blanket. Her silver hair fell gently across her shoulder. She hadn't said much since the escape, but Jason could see the difference in her eyes. The fear was still there, but deeper now there was something new. Calm. I think we lost them, he said, breaking the silence. Liari gave a small nod. For now? Jason looked at her gently. We can lay low for a while. I know a quiet moon a few systems out. You can rest there, or even start over. She didn't respond right away. She just looked out the window at the colorful storm, swirling outside. Then she asked, And what about you? Will you stay with me? Jason hesitated. If you want me to. Liari turned to him slowly. I thought when you saved me, it was because you felt sorry for me. That I was just a problem you stumbled into. Jason raised his eyebrows. You weren't a problem. You were someone who needed help. But I didn't understand, she said, her voice soft. I thought freedom meant being alone, but it doesn't, not really. Jason stayed quiet, letting her speak. When you gave me food, it wasn't just food. It was the first time someone fed me without expecting something back. When you gave me the bed, it was the first time I was treated like a person. When you risked your life to fight for me, that's when I realized something. She leaned closer, her voice trembling. You don't see me as a slave. You don't even see me as broken. You just see me. Jason smiled gently. Because you're worth seeing. Liari blinked back tears. All my life, I thought I was something to be owned, trained, sold, and I thought the only way to survive was to belong to someone stronger. She reached out and took Jason's hand. But I don't want to belong to anyone now, she said. I want to choose. I want to live. And I want to do it. With you. Jason's voice was low. Are you? Sure, she nodded. I've been taken, used, and passed from one master to another. But this time I'm not choosing a master, I'm choosing a friend, a home, a future. Jason looked down at her hand in his. He remembered the trembling girl at the auction, afraid to speak, afraid to breathe without permission. And now, this was a different girl. Still fragile, still healing, but braver than she knew. He gave her hand a gentle squeeze. Then stay. Not because you have nowhere to go, but because you want to stay. I do, she whispered. More than anything. They sat there for a long time in silence, side by side in the cockpit, watching the storm pass slowly around them. Outside, the warlord's ships searched the stars, but they were far now, fading into the distance. Jason turned on the comms. There's a small station ahead we can resupply. Get you new clothes. Real ones this time. Liari smiled, amused. Will I finally look like a space pilot? Jason chuckled. You'll look like Liari. Free, fierce, and maybe a little stubborn. I learned from you, she said playfully. As the ship moved forward, she leaned her head on his shoulder. You? No, she said, voice gentle. I used to dream of being rescued, but I never imagined I'd meet someone who would ask nothing in return. Jason looked at her. You gave me something too. What? Purpose. She smiled again. Then I'm glad I found you. The ship flew out of the nebula's edge into clearer skies. Stars stretched endlessly ahead. For the first time, Liari wasn't afraid of what was next. She wasn't property. She wasn't hunted. She wasn't a secret. She was Liari. And this time, she had chosen her path. Jason opened a fresh flight path. Let's find a new home. Together, she whispered. And as the stars welcomed them forward, the past stayed behind, where it belonged.